Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And before we get into it with our guest here today, I'd like to remind everyone, if you enjoy this content, please like and subscribe down below. I'd greatly appreciate it. We have Bree the Freak on the podcast. I'm just going to call her that because that's her Instagram, and it's hilarious. Like, it's awesome, too. I mean, it is a great Instagram tag to have, but no, we have Breanna on the podcast, everyone. She's coming to us, and she's going to talk to us about her bodybuilding journey. And I just have to put this out there because I don't talk about this too often, but we did do a podcast, I don't even know how much far away it was, and sometimes audio and video doesn't really work out, so then I don't publish them, and I try to get all the guests back on. So everyone be extra nice to Bree here because she did come back after, the first one was a little bit messy, and I just didn't want to publish it because I am a perfectionist. See, these bodybuilders I have on find out that I'm a perfectionist in my own way. They're a perfectionist when it comes to their body and their looks a lot of times. I'm a perfectionist when it comes to the technical difficulties of a podcast. But Bree, thanks again for coming back on, and it's great to talk to you again.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Of course I come back on. We've played a little tag for a minute.
Oh my,
Since
well,
we
like
meet you.
I don't, again, everyone there's some guests where I'm just like, okay, I literally hate them because it happens too often where like they cancel on me, but no, you're totally fine. I've had guests that like, we're talking double digit cancellations, and it's just like, at that point, you're just like, you're wasting my life. So just kindly screw you basically. But before we get into all that, why don't you just first off give us your backstory on what inspired and motivated you to get in shape and how that led to where you're at right now.
So for me, I've always been on the really, really skinnier side of things because I have a brain tumor. With my brain tumor, you're either malnourished or you're basically obese because your body just works like that. So for me, I was always very, very skinny. And we actually got into a motorcycle wreck, me and my fiance. And I ended up throughout that recovery process being diagnosed with body dysmorphia. It got really, really dark for me because my tibia and my fibia snapped, like had to have surgery. My leg was like this big in the cast. It was ridiculous. And finally he was just like, "Get up, we're going to the gym." And that as soon as I got that feeling, that rush, it was done.
When you were getting started in this lifestyle, were you an easy gainer? Or did it take a lot of time? Because I talked to some people where they can just look at the weight and then they grow muscle. And then you talk to the other people where like they work their ass off.
I had to work my hand off completely because one, I was starting from completely terrible eating habits. So I had like no stomach. So we had to build my stomach up as we went so I could actually intake, more food or food in general. So from there, like it took me at least a year and a half before we hit like 130. That was like a goal. So like, but when we started, I was like around 90 pounds, something like that, because after the wreck, like I just didn't got so small. But yes, I had to work and I had to work on eating healthy. That was a big struggle.
How did you do that? Because so many people, the eating part, like I've told you before, even with my story, that's why I struggled, even thinking about competing at a show because I just couldn't eat healthy for that long a period of time. But how did you eventually adapt the healthy eating habits?
So we started really, really basic with me, and so basic, like we utilized protein shakes just to slowly build up. And I'm not saying this is the healthiest way to do things, but for me, it's what we needed to do to get me to eat and get, because I would try to eat and my stomach would cramp so bad. That's how restricted I had been on my food, like not healthy. So, like, in order to build that up, we started easy. Added in a couple protein shakes, and I love rice, so that actually was a plus. So we actually got to utilize that a little bit more, but it took a while. And, thankfully now I'm in a really good place with it. To say it's easy would be a lie. I have to eat a lot of food to maintain. Like, it's not ridiculous, but it's pretty insane.
God, every time someone says rice on this podcast, I get like a mini stomach ache just because I remember how full you can get on rice and how you just feel like you're about to explode and just
Yes.
blow up. It's for anyone that isn't really that familiar with rice, it's basically like at the end of Thanksgiving dinner when you just feel like you're about to burst. That's what I feel like almost every time I eat rice because I can down it, and it's one of those foods where you never are completely full with it until you are at your like very maximum. So there it goes with that. But everyone always has that one body part that really, really takes off that they don't have to train as much when they get started. And then everyone always has that one body part that they just have to drag behind. What was one body part that really took off for you? And what's been one body part that you've just had to drag behind this whole time?
So my quads, they just grow. They grow. I'm not saying they're huge, but like that's my one body part that just it takes off before anything else. And my shoulders, yeah, it takes me forever to get like we work consistently hard to keep them there, to even get them going.
I was gonna say my last two guests have been like one of the most genetically blessed because they were the ones that said that their shoulders were the ones that really took off. And I was like, you don't realize how rare that is. So enjoy it while you have it, because especially for women, yeah, shoulders and legs are by far the two most common. Shoulders for upper body by far is the most, common answer I get. But this is just so much more of a mental change as well as a physical change. I mean, people just notice your look and you'll say, "Oh my God, you look amazing," but they won't really understand that mental transformation that's happened as well, which is so much more important. But what has this whole journey been like for you mentally?
Honestly, like when you do this and you fully dedicate everything to it, it changes everything you are as a person for the better. You learn better structure. You find yourself. Like you find out, like, can I push through things? Can I continue to go? Can I continue to force my body to go? Like every aspect of this is about dedication and determination and actually seeing your real self. You see your flaws. Can you call yourself out on that and be grown enough to be like, "Hey, I'm half-assing this. I need to do better." Like it's a lot of like realizing who you are as a person.
How has being a bodybuilder helped you in other areas of your life? Because I've told so many people that like if you can compete in a bodybuilding show, you can almost do anything just because of what you have to go through to step on that stage.
It's made me a better person all around. Like the just from the determination and dedication, the structure, everything you have to have checks of the boxes to be a successful person, no matter what you're doing. And it really sets the tone for your everyday life because everything is so balanced and structured. And for me, like I work at a supplement store, Subzilla, and then I do my personal training and have online clients and in-person clients. So like my day is very structured, set up for me to accomplish everything I need to.
So working at a supplement store, and I think the first time we had you on, we were at that supplement store. So I'll even include a couple clips probably just from that one, so everyone can see the supplement store. But what advice do you have for people just getting started supplement wise? Because so many people that I talk to when they first get started, they get the wrong advice where it's like take all these supplements, do all this stuff. And when I'm not even talking about like PDs, I'm just talking about like the supplements. Like they get so much wrong advice on that. And I even struggled myself even in high school where everyone was like, "Oh, just take creatine and then take all this stuff." And then I had friends that just got so sick just because they took so much stuff that their body just couldn't handle it, so they were just throwing up constantly. But what advice do you have for people just getting started on the supplement train?
Honestly, my biggest advice when somebody comes in and they're just getting started, or when I'm talking to clients or just helping people, the first thing I'm going to tell you is make sure you're intaking enough water before you start adding anything else, and make sure you're eating enough. That right there is going to change everything. If you get enough water in, you're going to feel great. I mean, that's just really one of the big aspects of it, but ease into it. You don't need 15 starting out because what if you start feeling sick, or what if you get headaches, or what if anything? You're not going to know which one's causing it. So just start out basic. Do like your multivitamin. They have women's, they have men's, they have, ones for both, but get a multivitamin, start there because there's going to be something you don't have enough of. But don't over pollute it right off the gate. Slow and easy.
I'm gonna tell you this story just so that I can see your reaction because I had a friend of mine in college who decided that he was gonna try a diet of nothing but creatine shakes, nothing else. He was gonna eat nothing else. He drank probably like 6 or 7 of them a day, and there are people like that in this world. You kind of have to realize that. Like my grandpa has on his bumper sticker, there are a lot of stupid people in this world, and I told him about that. But like, that's the extreme that I tell people of like, don't be like that guy because obviously it lasted like a week, and then he was just dead. So yeah, you gotta and try everything in moderation too. You don't have to. I mean, so many people get into this lifestyle wanting results immediately, and then they don't understand that it takes time. I'll use you as a poster child of that then too. Like it takes time. You're not going to see results overnight. And again, if you do, I will pay my entire life savings to train with you then because you have found the secret that
There's something, yeah, we all want that
you'll be the first
secret.
trillionaire probably because yeah, everyone will buy whatever it is that you are selling. But I mean, bodybuilding is a sport that not that many people in the general public are familiar with. What is probably the biggest misconception you get as a bodybuilder, just from friends and family or just people in the general public?
I mean, honestly, one of the biggest things I guess I would have to say is like they just assume like all the time year round you're running stuff. Like because the outside world they look in and that's basically what you see and think of, unfortunately. But like it's not like that. It's not the magical sauce. There's a lot of work that goes into it to making everything work and flow together. It's not the magic answer.
Believe me, if there was a magical sauce, that I would be and it didn't have like any nasty side effects or anything, I would be the first person in line to be like, give me all you got. So, and plus, I just say bodybuilders are the test bunnies, so that like when it does get perfected in the next couple of decades, their sacrifice will be duly noted for what they've done for the health of everyone. But no, and that's one thing that I hear a lot of people say too, is that like, oh, it's just drugs, and it's like, I've known people that have done just drugs and never worked out, and it doesn't do anything for them. Again, another stupid guy just did HGH and didn't even train, and it's like, what do you like? I do again. That's why I honestly believe that I could scam and make a significant amount of money if I had that. If I had that in me, I could do it, because I would just rely on stupid idiots like that, which there are unfortunately quite a few of. But just this sport in general, you got to walk up on stage in a bikini. That's something that a lot of people, if you were to talk to in the general public, would really struggle with. Even the people that look incredibly in shape, it's still something that it's a scary thing to do. Did you struggle with that at all, or were you one of those, like, a lot of them are the bikini girls I talk to, where they're just born with that sass where they don't care? But where did you fall in that?
Honestly, like, I didn't care. Like, to say that the first time I wasn't like, oh my gosh, because my first show was a Dave Lieberman show, and it was huge. There were so many people. So I was extremely nervous that first time I did that walk out there. I was like, oh gosh. But for me, I knew going into it, and I had to sit down and accept it, that I'm literally going to put myself on stage to be judged. Body dysmorphia. That's like, why do that? But
That is
that's what I
cranking things
wanted
up
to
to
do.
100 body dysmorphia wise. That is just like saying, hey, you know what? Let's make things as hard as possible for my body dysmorphia.
I was like, so I knew what I was signing up for. But I definitely have a sassier side, so that works out for me.
How have you seen just the gym culture change? Because I've seen, especially now that a lot more women are, actually working out. When I say actually working out, I mean like lifting weights, because there was
Yeah.
always women in the gym, but let's be honest, they were on the treadmill a lot of times. Even that was in college, they would have the track with the treadmill on it, with the treadmills on it, and then they would have the gym down below. 95% men down below, 95% women up above. There'd always be like those interlopers, like the 5%ers. But what has that been like, just seeing the gym culture change as more and more women have gotten into the gym and started working out?
I absolutely love it. I think it's awesome, to see women start feeling empowered and actually going and lifting weights to achieve what they want to look like, and what they view as beauty. I think is awesome. Like, more power to it, and we need more of it. And as it changes and it grows, it's awesome to watch, not just, the bodybuilding grow, but the education and the health information side and everything growing as well. So it's becoming better and better. It's just improving as it grows.
I will only say this once. I have so much pride for that, and how much it's really coming, but the only problem that I have is the women that wear the most scantily clad stuff ever imaginable, where it's basically just like a toothpick basically covering them up, and then they just get mad at men for having human nature and then just like staring at them for a second. That's the only problem that I have, where it's like, women, you got to understand your audience. The gyms are still majority of men, so if you come dressed up like that, it's just human nature that that's going to happen. So just so, and I'm not
Yeah.
telling women how to dress. Believe me, I'm not doing that. But I'm just saying, just be aware that if you do dress with barely anything on, and when I say barely anything, like obviously the average, like Gymshark or any of that, where it's perfectly fine and normal. But like I'm talking about the ones where like you can tell they're doing it for attention.
Exactly. That is a huge thing that's going on. And that's the influencer age. There's a lot of that. If you feel good in what you're wearing, go for it. But I know if I go in somewhere and I'm in like my hottie shorties and a sports bra and I'm doing leg day, people are gonna be looking like I'm kind of big, so they might be looking like that's crazy, or they're gonna look because there's a half naked chick in the gym.
Well, I've seen one too where it was
It's what
almost
it
like
is.
that Borat thong that I saw one time, where a lady was basically wearing, and it's like, what do you do? Like, what do you expect is gonna
Yeah.
happen? I mean, it's like, it's gotten to a certain point
You
where
can't get mad if you're going in a bikini. You're
it's
signing up for
it's
it.
gotten to a certain point where it's like, if you don't know that, I feel bad for you, but that's all on you, like 100%. But yeah, again,
Yeah.
there's so much benefits to the, and plus, I honestly think it makes the gym cleaner with women around and stuff like that. It's not gonna be as messy and dirty as it was. So I'm not saying that they clean everyone. I'm just saying guys have more attention than to actually clean up their stuff and make things look pretty. I am not implying that women
Yeah.
are there just
And not
clean. I'm
really like all their
Yeah,
sweat
yeah,
dripping
again,
and
I
they
just have
know
to
it's
admit, I'm
real
not
sweaty.
implying that women are only in the gym to clean. I'm just saying that men, when they see a lot of maybe attractive women around, they don't want to leave a huge mess, because then that leaves a bad image on it. That is what I'm saying. I'm not
Yes.
gonna I'm not gonna get canceled yet, Bree. So I'm covering my tracks right now, but it's gonna happen, eventually one of these days. But when you were first getting started competing, were you always in the division that you're in right now, or did you start out smaller and work your way up?
I actually started out in bikini, and I very, very quickly we realized that that was not for me. It took me a little bit to come to terms with it, but once we made the change, I was like, oh, okay, like yeah, I belong here.
No, it's crazy how many people do start off in bikini and then just, take off. I always think that that's a good starter division. And again, if you're a lifelong bikini competitor, more power to you, because it's tough to have that flash and pizzazz and flair that you need to have to be a bikini competitor. That's the one thing that I really think differentiates bikini competitors, is that you actually have to, you have to work it a little bit on stage, which not that many other divisions really have. And that takes a special kind of person to be able to do that, because it's, a nerve wracking thing. But just what you go through on a prep. What was that like the first time, coming from a past of having body dysmorphia, and then really that first time when you delve in and just realize, like, I'm going to get really, really shredded and really, really skinny?
Actually, for me, like I thrive in prep. Like that's my favorite. Probably and also not a very healthy thing, but that is like my favorite. I do great there. Like I struggle so much with the off season and the food and getting it all in. So for me, when I started prep, I'm like, yes. And of course, like the tinier guy, like I love it. But honestly, like maybe it's because I'm doing better with my body dysmorphia, like slowly but surely, especially over the last 2 seasons with my new coach Jacoby. Like I've really, really started to love my off-season body too. And I think that's a huge thing that we slowly come to terms with, and most of us try to. But like I actually this off-season was like, hey, I really like how I look right now. Like I look big.
How exactly do you love your off-season body, though? Because I know so many people say that, but then they don't like give people tips on how to love their off-season body. So what tips do you have for someone who's just like, okay, I want to love my off-season body, I just don't know how?
So for me, like I always thought I was supposed to be like an extra smaller and small. Like I'd put so much into thinking of those sizes, and that's what I should have been. I was finally like, no, my goal is to be in a medium. And then I was like, no, my goal is to be in a large and actually fit into it. And then like this off season was the first time I hit a large, and I was literally celebrating. I was like, hey, I can wear a large. So for me, it's almost like I reversed on the issue itself and made it a reward to grow and to hit that in a healthy, not just like food wise, but mental spot too. Like that's really what I focused on this all season, was kind of being more in a mentally aware spot as I progress and enjoy it, not just to throw the stress on it.
Well, speaking of mental, I mean, this sport is 99% mental, and I don't care what anyone else says. That's one thing that I've learned from talking to so many guests. And those days when you're not feeling it, you're feeling like crap and you don't feel like working out, where does that strength come from for you to get that workout done? Because that's one thing that a lot of people, just in the general public, that's their falling off point. And with bodybuilding, the one thing that differentiates bodybuilders from the general public is that they're able to find that extra added strength and just figure it out. So where do you think that that comes from for you personally?
So for me, I've become extremely strict about like when I wake up, and that first hour is like me just meditating, journaling. I'll go through my posing. Like I don't let myself fall out of that, because I know that's where situations mentally occur. If you miss one spot, it's harder to rebound. You miss another. If you miss another, then and then it comes a spiral. So you have to be able to catch that mindset and remind yourself, hey, this is why I'm doing this. This is my goal. This is where we're going with this, and just keep going and keep pushing.
Has anyone in the gym like ever freaked out if they seen you like crying while working out? Because I know that that happens to a lot of bodybuilders. They can admit that they don't do it or not, but it's a lot of crying on the treadmill or crying on other things. Have you ever gotten any reactions from people? Because if I saw a woman just like dead bawling on a machine, I would be pretty confused myself.
Yeah, so there's been some breakdowns. There's been some moments, especially like because when I get into prep, my fiance, my husband, he trains me. He's always trained me. Like I said, he's the reason I really found passion and love for the industry. So there have been moments where he's just like, "You have more," and I'm like, "No, no, I don't." And just everybody's like, and he's like, I'm like, "I'm sorry, I'm emotional."
I don't hit her, I promise, everyone. He turns around and says that.
For sure. He just stands there and he's like, are you ready? I'm like, yeah. He's actually perfect. Like when it comes to that, he's so patient, because I can be emotional.
how do you maintain a healthy relationship while also having that coach, that coach and that competitor relationship as well? Because yeah, I've always followed the mantra myself of never mix family with business, basically.
Yeah, so honestly, like, I don't know, it's just always been there for us, like, especially where he's done it too. He's also ex-military, so, like, he can handle things a little bit better than most people. So I think that in it when he loves me. So I think when it comes to that, like, and he knows, like, and we've been through it a few times now, so we kind of perfected it. But like when he sees that like I'm super stressed out, like he'll just like separate himself. Like we know now, like we don't get into a fight and then we come back around.
Have the preps gotten easier if you've done more of them, or have they gotten harder?
So to be honest, like the prep wise has gotten easier, like maintaining my emotional state and like making sure I'm like, hey, check yourself, like you're being snappy. Like I've had to really reel that in. Like for me, like I do pretty good with it, but especially with him, like I'll be like super snappy and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry for what I said when I was hungry.
One thing that I found fascinating too is that a lot of people, if you were to ask them at what stage in their prep do they think they look the best, like if they look in the mirror and they say, okay, this is the healthiest version of me, this is the version that I'm most proud of, it's not that stage look. So at what point in your prep, either before or after the show, do you look in the mirror and say like, okay, this is my, if I were to be given the choice, this is what I would like to look like?
So for me, that's normally fell around like 6 to 8 weeks. But Jacoby, he's so good at what he does. Like he just times everything so perfectly. He's really learned my body really well. Like it was like around the 3 to 4 week mark, which still is not a healthy ideal of things. But that's like I'm like, okay, I like this.
We're gonna do an RIP Bree then in about 5 years. Then if she's six on that, but no, and I've been fascinated by the fact that the answer normally has been like 6 weeks. That has been one of the most common answers, and
Mhm.
I've always told people it's like maybe bodybuilding should maybe do a little bit of a change then if you have the vast majority of your competitors saying that they prefer that 6 week look. But again, that's not the look that's gonna, be rewarded
Mhm.
on stage, unfortunately. But yeah, I've always just found that fascinating that that's the answer that you're gonna get, a vast majority of the time. But you mentioned before we started recording that you had a little injury this last year. What did you go through and how's the recovery been?
So after my last show, it started a few weeks prior to the show. But me being a stubborn athlete, I did not tell anyone, and I continued to push through a situation. I advise no one to do that. You'll learn from my story. So after the show, I was still trying to push because we had planned to go into North Americans, and I was in the gym and I was trying to do the leg extensions, and my legs literally just started doing this, and like I just started crying. I looked up, one of my friends and my fiance, they were training across and they came over and they're like, hey, what's like, stop, what's going on? So I finally broke down. I was just like, this is what's happening. And they're like, oh my gosh, why have you? So we got it looked at. Come to find out, my spine, my L4 was corkscrewed with my L5 and they were going this way and that way. So everything was pinched off. So we took six,
Hold
eight
on,
weeks
hold
out
on,
of
hold
the
on. So you were willingly training yourself with a messed up spine.
I was. I did not want to quit. Yes, it was the hardest 6 to 8 weeks out of the gym I've ever experienced in my life because I felt like I was having everything taken away from me. It was it was so hard and like I had to stay in a really good mental state, which was also extremely hard because I felt like I was losing so much good time. So what happened was I ended up hyper focusing in on my food intake and my diet for like the first time, like really being able to give everything to perfecting that. And we this honestly, like my rebounds have never been great. This has been my best rebound I've had. So, I've just turned lemons into lemonade. It was very complicated, but we got back on it as soon as like my spine and everything was good to go from the chiropractor. Shout out to Pumpkin Chiropractic who fixed my spine. He did wonders.
Again, everyone, this is reason 1976 why bodybuilders are absolute psychopaths, that you're willing to train with a messed up spine. But that just shows, again, the dedication, the drive that these people have in this sport. And that's why, I'm just give a lot of respect to them because, yeah, you will never find me with a messed up spine going anywhere near a gym. So how did they think that you injured it? Was it just you were training funny, or what did they have any
I
idea?
could have been there had been a couple situations that it could have been, and I just didn't listen to my body. Yeah, we're fine. So there was one day when I was deadlifting, and I just kind of almost rolled my ankle. And yeah, so it could have been in that moment, or it could have just been, over the years, something that was slowly just happening. We can't really pinpoint, the moment that it really happened, but it started about 6 weeks out from my show. But the shaking hadn't hit yet, just the pain. So I was still able to, fully train and do what I needed to do. But yeah, listen to your body.
Yes, everyone. That's the message that I was honestly going to say myself after she was done with her story. You got to learn to listen to your body, and hopefully she's learned her lesson. I don't want to be talking to her again and then realize that, like, oh, hey, I'm completely now the hunchback of Notre Dame or something like that because I didn't, focus in on that. But no, I'm glad that, you got that figured out and fixed because, yeah, and again, you are not even close to the first story that I've heard of someone who has an injury as severe as that, and then they still think that they could, go in and train because, when you're in this lifestyle where it just becomes a part of your life where you just can't consider or see yourself not training or going to the gym. So when you were taking some time off, how hard was that? I know you hyper focus on your food, but how hard was the mental side of when you're just so used to that lifestyle and have everything so down pat, when you aren't able to do it for a while? How did you deal with that mentally?
So honestly, like I knew right out the gate that I needed to have something in plan to like do my daily affirmations, something to remind me like, hey, we're still on track. Like you're not in the gym, but you're not losing anything. Your goal is to maintain and get as better as you go through this process. So I literally just had it set out where I did daily affirmations, like reset my goals, rewrote my goals, went over everything over and over just to keep myself in a positive mindset. And when things did get hard and I found myself like mentally just sucking, I was like, hey, listen, this is out of your control. This isn't you just being a shit bag. Like, you can't go right now. So refocus, change your mindset. It was one of those consistently working at.
Yeah. It's always a work in progress. You're never going to perfectly, figure stuff out. It's always going to be, something that has to be worked on. But in this lifestyle as well too, I mean, you're not the average looking woman when you walk in general public. I mean, you are going to get stares just because it's human nature when they see something that's not the normal to just be fascinated by it. Has it gotten easier for you to accept that, or is it still one of those times where you're just like, okay, this is just weird?
I love it. Like I'll have people, I get so excited. I'm like, yeah, I look like I lift. Oh yeah, somebody like it's happened a couple of times too, where somebody just screamed flex. I'm like, yes, let's go. I look like I go to the gym now.
That is a good mindset to have because yeah, you and it's just embracing it too, which I love too because it's something that it does happen. And when you're also getting ready for all this, and there's so much more mindset that we talk about, but just the nutrition part of it as well. How mentally do you convince yourself to function on such a low amount of food, especially as you're getting ready for a show? Because I have tried a mini prep myself and it just tore me apart. So how do you do that? Because I know part of it goes with, bodybuilders are a tad bit psychopaths. I know, and I'm glad to say that I don't have that then, I guess. But again, it can also be a benefit as we see with the guests. But how do you do that? Because I just look at that and I'm like, that's just crazy how they're able to get through that.
So for me, like I can give you a past and like a current like view on this because past coaches I've had have like almost starved me. And like it was rough. Like it was like I'm going to bed every night crying like I am so hungry or I'm taking a sleeping pill so I can go to sleep and not eat anything. But with Jacoby, what is crazy is like I'm eating good amount of food. Like it's awesome that it sucks that sometimes you have to go and see like a lot of wrong ways to do things in this industry before you find your way and you find the coach who makes everything actually make sense and click. Like, oh, like this is how it's supposed to be done correctly. Like this is why this had happened because like I don't get me wrong, like you get lower and lower food, but like my food stayed decent. Like I wasn't as hungry as I had anticipated, and like I ate so much food peak week, it was insane. I would never experience that.
What was your go-to peak week meal?
It's beef and rice.
Ooh.
Yes.
Come on, rice for peak week. Come on.
Yup. Beef and rice. That was like I was eating so like he's that's what I'm saying. Like in this industry, like you really just like you go to different doctors to find the best doctor to do the surgery, like you need to go basically interview coaches and find the right coach for you because there are so many coaches out here. But the real truth is there are so many really, really good coaches. Like, and none of these coaches are off limits. Shoot them a message. Like, reach out, because I'm telling you, like, being with Justin Jacoby and being a part of that team, like, it showed me the right way that things need to be done. Like, how you shouldn't starve. Like, yes, there's crazier sides for, like the bodybuilding side of things, of course. But like women, like, my fats are good. Like, I'm eating fruits. Like, you don't have to starve for this. You don't. Now bikini is a little different. Y'all might have to starve a little
Well, and I
bit.
mean, this is a sport too of, constant comparison with other people. Have you found a way to do that in a healthy way without being like way too critical of yourself? Because I know a lot of bodybuilders, and when I say a lot, I'm basically saying everyone struggle. That's not even the body dysmorphia part, but it's just the part of being judged on stage against other people. That does something to your brain. How have you tried at least to find some way to make that a little bit more healthier? Because I know some people that go to that extreme where they're just constantly comparing themselves to other people, not even on stage then, just because it just wires your brain kind of funny if you're just doing that a lot.
So I used to be, I'm just going to be real here, really toxic with this. So I would get so bad that I would put side by sides of said person next to me, and I would just tear because I would be picking people who were like pros already and like established pros. And I would just tear from my toes up. I would tear everything apart about me, and I would like literally write like, you needed this, this, this. So like I had to like almost get rid of that, and then turn it around and be like embracing the other woman for her accomplishments, for her goals. So I had to basically rewire myself from everything being a competition to, this is awesome. Like, it's not her versus me, it's me versus me. So what I would do is like take a show photo and then I'd put my updates, because like I had to make it where it was a me thing instead of me trying to compete with someone else in their story and their journey and where they're at, because that's not where I am. So I had to turn it around that way. A lot of psychology.
Oh, I mean, bodybuilding is a form of psychology, honestly. When you become a personal trainer or a coach, you basically become a therapist, if we're being completely honest.
Yes.
And you're just not getting paid as much. That's the most unfortunate thing as a therapist is. But just when you see old photos of yourself, if you ever happen across them, what goes through your mind when you just see how much you've changed and how, because I know I was even scrolling through right before we had you on, and you had a recent post that you had of you like right before you started competing. But what goes through your mind when you see that and just realize like, oh my God, I can't believe I've made this much difference?
Like, I get really proud, like, because that girl who first started out was so broken. She was so insecure. I had no value or like of my own self worth. Like, I literally was just this insecure little bubbly thing running around who had no clue what her worth was. So that's a big reason why I am so passionate about bodybuilding and, the industry as a whole, because for me, like, this is something that literally made me realize who I am, my worth. Like, I found myself here. So when I see those photos, like, I'm like, man, she's so proud right now. Like, it's kind of an awesome feeling. Also, I'm like, whoa, I ate her. She is gone.
Yeah. Well, and I know bodybuilders aren't powerlifters though, but is there one lift that you've done in the gym that you're the most proud of? Like if someone were to ask you what's one lift that you what's the one lift that you could have engraved on your tombstone basically if you could?
um, so I don't lift super, super heavy on very many things anymore. But when I weighed, I think I was like 130. I was still in bikini. Well, still in bikini. And I literally did 315 on a squat. I think that was like I felt my soul leave out through my knees. I will never attempt. I have a lot of friends who do powerlifting, and have friends, who have spent years. They've got, really great scores. And I just, it's not that impressive. But to me, I was like, okay, we did it.
Yeah, that's pretty damn impressive. Do you ever look at powerlifters and just get tempted to maybe do powerlifting when you realize that they can eat whatever they want basically?
No, because for me, like, I have decent strength, but like that just and I know a lot of like the older like deadlifting guys, and like I know like the guys who've been benching really hard, like their wear and tear on their body's pretty bad too.
Oh my God, yeah, it's worse than bodybuilders. I've interviewed, probably about like 50 or 60 of them. Yeah, it's just, and we're not even going to talk about CrossFitters because I had one on last night too, and that is just asking for injury. And
They're
if she
animals
watches
though.
this, I told her ahead of time, I am going to rip on CrossFit for injuries. That's about it, but that's the only time I did. So if you're watching this, I told you it was going to happen, but I still respect the hell out of CrossFitters.
Yes, I absolutely love CrossFit now. Like after I finish this, like that's something I might want to do, like play around with. Like that, it just looks like so much fun. I
D-
think CrossFit would be fun.
don't ever do kipping pull-ups because at 6'3", I did kipping pull-ups one time and I messed up my chin because it hit the bar when I was going up. Just too
That
tall
would be
for it.
me. I hit my head off everything as it is, so I'd find a way to
I
knock
can
myself
tell, Bree. I can tell.
out.
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, it is fascinating how many different genres of fitness have especially taken off, even in like the last 10 years, and how it's just ever growing and evolving. And I don't even know what it's going to be like in the next 5 to 10 years. So we'll have to see what happens. But what do you do for shoulders? Because I know that's the one body part that you struggle with the most. So that means that you probably spend the most attention to it because so many women, like I talked to you about, struggle with that. So what do you do for shoulders?
A lot of like side lat raises and presses. A lot.
Yeah, and when you got to train them multiple times a
And
day
you're
is what I
down.
always tell people to, or multiple times a week, I should say. You always got to train them
Oh
too
yeah.
because
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, I know some people
Yeah.
that they still do the 1 day a week thing, and then they're like, I don't know why they're not growing, and it's like because you're doing the basics. Like if someone was
Yeah, we're hitting them like at least 3 times a week in
three
one
times,
form or
wow,
at least one form or another. We got to work to get these guys to grow.
yeah, I get. I mean, yeah, it is always a work in progress with that. But do you ever have any difficulty with, especially when you're in general public or when you're even talking to people that might be friends, but do you ever have a difficulty with people not being able to look past the way that you look and just get to know like the real you? Because unfortunately, when you stand out a lot in a crowd, it's harder for people to get past the way that you look and just actually get to know like the real person. I know that's what a lot of bodybuilders struggle with, is that so many people are just so taken aback by the way that they look that it's hard for them to like actually get to know the real person.
I've actually she's a really good friend now, but I had a girl tell me I was extremely intimidating. And I said, "Well, am I intimidating or are you intimidated?" And she was like, "You know what? You're right." I was like most of the bodybuilders you'll meet are extremely nice, like the biggest hearts, big teddy bears, literally. So, in this industry, like that is something we'll face. But honestly, the more it gets bigger and bigger and growing, like the less judgy I feel it is. Of course, you're always gonna have your judgy aspect for all the reasons, but honestly, like I feel like it's kind of getting more and more normalized.
That's why, I mean, I've called out maybe one or two competitors, and that's because they deserve to be called out for stuff that they've done or just the package that they present. But that's why I will never generally call out an individual competitor because I know how nice they are and I know how sweet. I've had nothing but positive experiences with almost every bodybuilder I've met. Now, again, with doing 600 of these, you're going to have one or two that are just not gonna be that well. But the vast, we're talking 99% of the time, it's just been incredible. So I will never say a bad word normally about an individual competitor. I can badmouth the sport as much as I want, but I will never say an individual person or because I know how nice they are and how inviting they are, and it's unfortunately that they are shadowed by some things in the sport that really turns people off to the individual competitors, which is unfortunate. But this is also a balancing act when you become a female bodybuilder because like you're balancing your femininity and size, which is something that the men do not have to deal with. How have you been able to juggle that? Because that is something that so many people struggle with, and some people when they get started are sort of ingrained that belief of you can't have both. You have to choose one or the other.
Oh, that's absolutely not true. So one thing that I have learned is less is more. We are females, and that applies in the area you think it does. Less is more. This
We're
past
talking about
season,
cardio, everyone, by the way.
so this last couple of seasons, I've had a new coach. Like I said, I've talked about him, Justin Jacoby, and less is more is literally like the less amount of anything I ran, done, and completely health conscious. We are getting blood work every rotation. Like I literally just had some done. We'll get the results in a couple of days. So, you know, be smart because you can keep your femininity and still bodybuild because there are less of those women who are crossing that line. If you really, really look now, like most of these girls are gorgeous, like completely yoked and stacked, but they're beautiful. So you don't have to cross that. I mean, one of the most gorgeous girls in the industry, to my opinion, Andrea Shaw, and she's absolutely yoked. Like,
Yeah.
so there is a balance. So you have to do your research, talk to multiple people, talk to different coaches. Like, you don't have to cross that line that you're not going to be able to come back from.
Do you ever get nervous after you've gotten your blood drawn? Just because I remember just times when I was in the doctor's office when I was a kid, like getting anything, like either if I came in with like the flu or anything like that, just getting that test, and then you have those couple minutes when you're waiting. Now I know it takes a few days to get it, but like just I would just imagine that nervous kid me again being like, oh my god, something bad's gonna happen, something bad's gonna happen. Do you ever do that? Just not even because you might think that something's bad, but just the person in you like me is just like, oh my god, it's gonna be bad, isn't it?
So for me, yeah, absolutely. I do like I wear my brain tumor, so it's always like a worry for me that this, for some reason something wild's gonna come back and be like, oh crap. Um, but also I had never worried about it until I got a bad cholesterol reading back. My lipids were messed up. And that was before I got switched over. That was one of the reasons I switched over to new coach, because me and my old coach felt it was a good idea for me to go with somebody who could help me get that fixed and figure out my diet, because that was bad. We weren't able to figure it out. And so we made the decision that it was better for me to get someone who could help. So when those came back bad, like immediately, that was the first thing like Jay got on. He immediately was like, this, and this. And we did bloods again. Everything came back perfect. I was like, "Whew." So now every time like I get them done, I do get a little stressed out. I'm like, well, what if something's wrong? But in that moment, I'm just like, hey, if something is wrong, you're gonna know how to get it fixed. You're gonna know what to do. You're gonna have the steps to handle it.
Well, and I
But
was
that's the thing you can't ignore. You got
oh,
to get it done.
I mean, if you ignore your blood work, I have no sympathy for you then when it comes to if anything
Yep.
eventually does happen to you, because it's like that is just the easiest thing to tell if you have something wrong or not. But I mean, I didn't want to bring your brain tumor up until the end here. So how long have you had it, and how does it affect you? And just because you're the first person I've had on that's ever had a brain tumor that I've talked to.
So I have a JPV brain tumor on my brainstem, and it like blossomed out like a flower. I was 18. I was getting ready to go off to college, and I collapsed. And then I started having like these sporadic seizures. Like I would reach out, like say for like my drink in front of me, and my hand would go like that. Like all of these things started happening, and I finally went to the right doctor. I went to several doctors, but I finally got with the right doctor, did the test, and she set me down even before I had my MRI. She said, so you need to prepare yourself. She said, you either have a brain like aneurysm or an embolism and then a tumor. She's like, it's definitely one of the three. And so, immediately got the MRI and stuff. So that was when I was 18. So we're going on 12 years, 13, something like that. But, recovery from that was a little bit difficult. I had to relearn, like walking, like I couldn't turn my head all the way. But like I said, I don't have any issues from it. I'm absolutely blessed. Like other than sometimes I'll talk weird, like you'll catch it. You're like, wait, I know what you said, but how'd you say that? Sometimes little things like that. But like I said, I'm actually really blessed that I don't have to deal with that constant worry. It was actually 2 or 3 years ago they cleared me. Like I don't have to get it checked anymore unless I would have reoccurring issues. So
Did you struggle with it at all, just like with working out, just like any seizures or anything when you were first getting started?
no, like I'll get, they call them like tumor headaches. Like I'll occasionally get brain tumor
So like when
headaches,
your
but
leg was shaking on the thing was the first thing that you thought of that maybe it was something with your
yes,
head? Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, immediately. Like I just started crying, and I looked at Daniel, and he knew. He said, "Bree, that doesn't mean that's what it is." And I was like, "Really? I'm a walking time clock here." I was like, "Of course." I was like, "I can't move my," because when I first started having symptoms, the walking, my legs giving out, that was just some of my onset symptoms. So yeah.
If your husband had any sense of humor, he would just immediately tell everyone in the gym, "Everyone get out, she's about to explode."
He probably would if
Oh no,
if I wasn't
I
like
know, but
tortured.
I'm that kind of sarcastic a-hole, but I would never do that in person, but I would be thinking it deep down, and I might laugh in my head a little bit, but never in but no, yeah.
Yeah, no, but with like my headaches and stuff, like I can tell when they're coming on. So I'll just take some medicine, and luckily, like I'll just let my body recover and chill from that. So luckily, not in the gym, but I've had them hit a couple of times, like when I've been in the gym and I've been training clients. So it been at one time it happened right after, and I literally just went into the training room. I couldn't even talk to anybody. And like I ended up having a seizure on the floor, and like that's how Daniel found me. He was like, "Why didn't you come get?" I was like, we had no time. I was going down. Like, so I just went, placed myself against the wall and let it go.
Wow. Yeah, that's That's incredible. And props to you for being able to go through with that. And again, that just shows the dedication and the strength that you have to, still be competing and do bodybuilding with that. It's really, really impressive. And if someone were to also walk up to you and say, Bree, we made the decision, you can change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would go along with it, will be one thing you'd like to see changed?
So we have actually some companies who are making some really big changes right now in the industry, and the direction they're going it's awesome. It appears that there's going to be more opportunities and options for all the athletes within the foreseeable future, and I think that's something that bodybuilding needs, because just like any sport, like you have your football, which I'm not. It's very different. I'm aware before I get attacked for comparing us to football. But like
they make billions of dollars, Bree.
Each sport has a setup that is beneficial for the athlete, and I think that's one thing that I'd really love to see more of. Even if it's just the pro level that gets taken care of, that's fine. Then you have to earn your way to that, which is what we all fight for anyway. So it's just a bigger goal. But I think that would be something really awesome to see.
I now know the title of this podcast. Female bodybuilder says NFL players make too much money and that she wants some of it.
And I got canceled.
Oh my God, no. But again, yeah, I agree with that too. They need to find ways to make money though. And I've been trying to find ways. One of the ideas that I have is like they could do like a couples division too. I think that might maybe take off.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Where like even if the woman is like a bikini competitor and the guy's like a bodybuilder, even if it's like vice versa, where the guy's just like in a smaller division, the girl's a bodybuilder, still just have them pose together, have them do a routine. I think that would draw a little bit more interest too.
That would be so cool.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
I don't get why they haven't done that, because if you think about it, more than half the guests that I have are in a relationship with someone else who's also a competitor. So you'd have a lot of people to be able to do it. So yeah, that's honestly, one thing myself. But what are your plans for the rest of the year? Where would we like to be at next year?
So we are 18 weeks out from the show that I'm doing right now. And the goal is to just go in. It's nationals. So we're just going to go in and bring our A game. And hopefully we start the next season with that pro card. That's always the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, again, everyone, go and check out our Instagram page. I'll leave a link down below. Check it out just for the name in and of itself. If you're going to even check it out, just do it for that, because it's awesome. But again, Bree, thank you so much for coming back on. I really, really appreciate it.
And thank you so much for having me. Much appreciated.
Oh, are you kidding me? The pleasure is all mine. But again, everyone, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on. See, okay, so wait, before we wrap things up, I just noticed that happens every once in a while. So like if anyone gives like a thumbs up or something like that, or like a heart thing. See, yeah, then eventually there'll be something. Then eventually something will just pop up on the screen. So that confused the shit out of me when that first happened, because I thought that like someone else was on. I thought someone else was watching from like a third party, and I was like, what the hell's going on here? So like I thought someone was like trying to like hack in or something like that, because people would just give like a thumbs up, and then like a thumbs up would appear, something like that would happen, and then that's scary. But it wasn't until last night when I was doing it that I finally realized that like, oh my God, the guest is doing that, because it's happened in like a dozen podcasts where I'm like, what is going on here? Did someone hack into me or something? But then I just realized, oh, that's just the screen recognizing it. So I wish they would tell you that ahead of time, so you wouldn't just freak out. Because imagine you were talking to like your significant other on a private call, and then all of a sudden like a heart emoji popped up. And you're just like, what is going on here? So yeah.
What is happening?
I just had to say that before we wrap things up. So I couldn't think of a better way to wrap things up. But again, everyone, go and check Bree out. And this is Ryan Johnson, D on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.